Hey guys, we're going to be taking a look at an advanced theory called the Lasagna theory. And yes, it's a little bit more advanced than it would sound like. However, it's ultimately not super complicated in execution. And the key thing here is in the first example, we're going to be talking about the dive composition matchup. But really, this theory is applicable in spam, brawl, or even non-mirror situations. For example, playing a Reinhardt comp into dive, a spam comp versus Reinhardt, or any sort of thing in between. Any sort of hybrid composition, even applicable in ranked, although the coordination required is probably not something you're going to find in ranked. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and stay tuned till the end of the video where I'm going to give you an example from just a random quick play game with totally random heroes about how you can actually apply this in any composition.
When is it time to cancel a dive? Because I think that a problem with my team, so I'm on a 4.4K team.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time we go in, they use like rally or something, and then we don't get a kill.
Yeah.
And I think that we stay in there for too long because like, oh, what if we actually finish this kill? And then we commit like primal or something, and it really doesn't feel worth it, and our backline's already dead, and we're kind of just, or our backline's about to die or something. And I feel like the fight is kind of just lost at that point if we can't get the kill. Especially since we run an echo variant, and sometimes it feels like after those stickies land, and if they don't land, then it feels like we can't really get the kill at that point, especially against on brig.
Jump in the screen share really fast.
Okay.
It's called the Lasagna theory. And it's not exactly new, but it's something that I worked with London, and I will take full credit for them doing well in the Junker Queen meta, because I was the one that helped coach us through that old economy. I'm half joking here. Only half, though. The big thing when you have dives like that is there's always going to be a response. For you, there's two things that you need to do. You need to anticipate the response. You need to know that they have rally, that they're going to rally when we dive them, yeah? And then number two, you need to be able to react appropriately, okay? So if you go into a fight when you dive them and they have rally, what are some tools that justify you staying in that you may have?
Pulse bomb.
Pulse bomb. Dupe. Yep. What else?
I'd say primal to an extent, but I feel like dupe and pulse are much more lethal,
more effective
on a rally dive.
Yeah. I guess for me, it's like maybe not specifically versus rally, but like, okay, they nano the brig. Okay, then that's where primal is useful, right? Just basically in general, like how many tools do you have to go beyond that? And this is where Lasagna theory works, where it's basically you have step one is dive, step two they respond, right? There's a layer number two. Step three, what is your response to their response, right? Step four, what is their response to your response to their response? And then step five, what is your response to their response to your response to their response to your response? You kind of see what I'm saying? It's kind of absurd at that point in time, but you kind of need to know who comes out on top on that Lasagna trade. And if you go, hey, they have rally and we have primal, once we dive and we see that rally, what's our best course of action?
Get out.
Get out. We don't try to force things at that point in time anymore. But if you got copy and pulse and you see rally, then what do you do?
Dupe on it, get an anti-nade in there, or potentially pulse. Right,
exactly. So you have a good enough expectation of like we have enough to continue going after that initial trade. And that again, that starts with anticipating and knowing what they have to begin with. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
So you need to go, all right, we go one, we know that two is coming, so that we need to go three. Now, here's what I will say. Reasonably, this is where we can really draw the line for most teams of your tier. Right here. I'm not expecting you to counter the counter. But if you know that they have a response to your dive, what's your next move? If you guys can do that consistently, then you're going to have a much better time with the responses to your dive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And what makes this really important is that you can actually do this before the fight even starts by ult tracking, right? Nano the brig, rally. I mean, even if they're like playing a non-dive composition, right? Like let's play they're playing JQ and they've got shout. Okay, we're gonna dive, they're gonna shout. Then what do we do, right? You know, because the shout will shut down a dive unless you have pulse, primal, nano, and so on. If that makes any sense. Sound good?
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to take a look at this. This is a great example of what we're looking at here. Now, this is not Dive. This is just a random quick play game I was playing with some of my patrons last night. So if you look at this fight, let's say this fight's about to start. What would be the first layer of Lasagna you'd want to apply? What would be the best ultimate to engage with? Because that's usually the first question you should ask. What's the best engage to look like? Whether it's a neutral engage, just to like use some cooldowns. Is it to use an ultimate like Rally, Annihilation, Kitsune Rush? It doesn't really matter. Now, looking at this situation right now, I think generally Kitsune Rush is the longest lasting, the easiest to get value out of, and the most consistent in terms of opener here. So what we do is we first layer of Lasagna is we'd use our Kitsune Rush, all right? And let's say we ult tracked properly. Let's say we knew they had Dragon, we knew they had Nano. What are they going to do in response? Well, we could probably anticipate Nano Monkey in response. So then what should we do to add to the third layer? Well, then we should probably respond with Rally, and then theoretically, we should be good to go from there. If the fight continues to get messy, maybe they land a big anti-nade, maybe things get a little bit hairy, then I can always respond with my Annihilation at this point in time, or we can use our Dragon ult. But theoretically, using Kitsune Rush to force Nano, layer 2, responded with Rally to defeat, not only to counter the Nano, but to provide value on top of the Nano. That should be enough to win this fight. Alternatively, we could just take a neutral engage, see if we can force the Nano just naturally without using anything, and then respond with Rally or Kitsune Rush to counter that. So that would be a way to do things. And neutral engage can be the first layer if you have a really good set neutral. You don't always have to open with an ultimate. It's just a way of looking at it. A neutral engage might be me using my Nemesis form and trying to threaten backline while my Hanzo or Ashe takes an off angle, baiting that Nano Monkey, and then we peel it off. So the key thing here is that, like, I mean, whatever this compositional matchup is, it doesn't really matter. It's about finding what that first layer should be, anticipating or predicting a good idea of what they want to use next. So, like, let's say even if they use Dragon ult here and they didn't use Nano ult, we could still respond with Rally or Annihilation. So a lot of it is dependent on what they use, and it's a very difficult theory to apply in the heat of battle. But if you're thinking only one step at a time, and like I said, at most 2 or 3 layers without thinking 4, 5, 6, 7, then it's actually not too hard, especially in a coordinated team environment. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll chat with you in the next video.